we're covering one of the most emotionally difficult and legally complicated murder trials in the country, the trial of Lindsay Clancy, the Massachusetts mother charged with killing her 3 young children. This case is not about identifying the person who caused these deaths. The defense acknowledges that Lindsay Clancy killed her children. The question confronting the jury is whether she was criminally responsible when she did it. Was this a calculated and intentional series of murders, or was Lindsay Clancy suffering from such a severe mental disease, described by the defense as postpartum psychosis, that she could no longer understand the wrongfulness of what she was doing or control her conduct? Those are the questions that we have today. So, folks, just be a quick reminder that the Police Off the Cuff podcast is sponsored by the Believe Network. By FanDuel on the Believe Network. So hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your thoughts, hold on to your prayers, hold on to your service dog. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the Off the Cuff zone, the Police Off the Cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Now, this highly charged case, the court proceedings is currently in progress. We're going to go live to that.
This process, there are a number of different technicians or forensic scientists that work on any given case. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And at the end of it, one analyst is responsible for reviewing all the data and authoring a report.
Yes.
And based on your training and experience, if you're that person reviewing the data and authoring the report, do you have the ability to interpret some of the data in the report?
Yes.
Or data in the testing, I should say.
Yes, we review all the data that is provided within the case file.
And did you, during your time at the crime lab in the toxicology unit, stay up to date on various types of drugs and quantifications of those drugs and what that could mean for levels in a person's blood or urine?
Yes, they keep us up to date on drugs that are commonly used.
So one of the roles in the toxicology unit is for you to report whether substances are detected in blood and urine. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And at some points, are you also called upon to interpret the levels of those drugs?
So in blood, we report values. So we get concentrations of the different drugs and we mainly report them in blood.
Okay. And as far as the concentration levels themselves, did you have training and experience on interpreting those levels?
We usually get training on the effects of the drugs. It's hard to say with some drugs, as well as some people, what one level might mean for one person. It might differ and you have different effects on another.
Okay, and fair to say that's a limitation of just reviewing blood and not knowing anything else about a case, right?
Yes.
At the toxicology unit, at the crime lab, is there a limitation as to how or what types of drugs can actually be quantified or given concentration levels?
Yes, we only quantify certain drugs.
And what happens if there are other drugs present and there's a request for quantification or concentration levels? What does your lab do with that?
Usually they're sent out to another lab in order for testing.
And are you familiar with the NMS lab?
Yes.
Is that, or was that at that time, a common lab that would be sent drugs that you could not quantify in your lab?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to the lab number of 01723. It's a case that you were the reporting analyst on, correct?
Yes.
And fair to say that there were several items that were submitted to the toxicology unit as specimens.
Yes.
Including blood, plasma, and urine.
Yes.
And did you work with other members of the toxicology unit to have those specimens screened and then further tested?
Yes, the batch process was followed.
And as far as any screening tests, did you yourself do any screening tests on these items?
Yes,
What screening test did you do?
the screening for the alcohol.
And was there any alcohol present?
No.
And in this screening for alcohol, does it just tell you whether it was detected or not detected?
Yes,
And so when you don't have a result, there's nothing further to do.
correct.
Now, as far as the blood that was tested in this case, in the urine, you were aware that there were screening tests done for what's called the ELISA screen, benzodiazepines, and general unknown screens for these samples, correct?
Yes, that's usually our protocol.
And in any of those circumstances, were there positive results?
Yes.
And as it pertained to the positive results, what's your understanding of what was positive?
So to my knowledge, it was positive for the benzodiazepine panel in ELISA. That would have gotten further confirmatory testing done on it to see the levels as well as the individual types of benzos that were present in the blood. And the same was for the urine as well. We also identified a few substances via our general unknown screen, which was confirmed in blood and urine.
Now, as far as
Counsel, is there an agreement as to whose blood is being tested at this point instead of just by the number?
Yes.
It might be easier for everybody, for the jury to follow.
so would Your Honor just like me to read the results?
No, just instead of referring to it by a number. Well, let me see it sidebar.
A little question from the judge as to the number related to these tests. He wasn't that easy to hear him. He didn't speak clearly into his microphone in this court of law here. So it's just a little question as from the judge as per what's going on here. So, the basic facts on January 24th, 2023, Lindsay Clancy was at her family home in Duxbury, Massachusetts. And let me just put a little picture up on the screen. Her husband, Patrick Clancy, left the home to pick up medication and food. When Patrick returned, he found Lindsay outside the house after she had jumped from a second-story window. She had also sustained injuries to her neck and wrists. Patrick then entered the house and discovered the children in the basement. Prosecutors allege that Lindsay strangled Cora, Dawson, and Callan using exercise bands before attempting to take her own life. Lindsay survived the fall but suffered serious spinal injuries that left her paralyzed. She's now on trial in Plymouth Superior Court, as we know, we're watching this, on 3 counts each of murder and strangulation. And again, this is important for viewers to understand. This is not a whodunit. This trial is fundamentally different from most murder trials. The defense is not arguing that someone else entered the house. It's not arguing that forensic evidence was planted. It's not claiming that police arrested the wrong person. The defense acknowledges that Lindsay Clancy caused the deaths. The fight is over her mental condition and whether she had the legal capacity to be held responsible. So that means the jury will be examining 2 separate but related questions. Did Lindsay Clancy intentionally perform the physical acts that caused the deaths? So they're back into the courtroom. So we'll go back up onto the screen here. They're back into the courtroom. The defense attorney shuffling through her papers right now. So the whole purpose of this case really is to define whether she's responsible for these based on her mental condition during this case.
I tell you that your report was previously entered as Exhibit 183. Have you had the opportunity to review your report before coming today?
Yes.
And so the lab number that we've been referring to, you're aware that the person associated with that lab number was actually a woman by the name of Lindsay Clancy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the testing that was done, you received results to the positive benzodiazepines in the screen, and then it was confirmed, correct?
Correct.
How many benzodiazepines were present?
There were at least 4 or 5.
Okay. And were you able to get concentration levels from the blood samples after that screen and the confirmatory tests?
Yes.
And again, already in evidence, but the toxicology report for item 10-101 on the blood with those benzodiazepines, there's diazepam, correct?
Yes.
Norodiazepam,
Yes.
oxazepam,
Yep.
temazepam,
Yes.
and lorazepam.
Yes.
And as far as your review of the testing on those substances and the concentration levels, did anything about any of those levels stand out to you as far as based on your training and experience?
Only that they were reportable.
Okay. Are you familiar whether they're in any sort of therapeutic level for any of those drugs?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You mentioned there were also other substances that were detected in the general unknown screen, correct?
Yes.
And that would have been mirtazapine, lamotrigine, quetiapine metabolite, and trazodone.
Yes.
And was your lab able to get concentration levels for those?
No.
And so what did you do, or what was done with the samples or the specimens as it pertained to those substances?
To my knowledge, they were sent to NMS labs.
And you've previously stated that you are trained on effects of certain types of drugs, but your limitation is you don't know how it affects a particular individual, correct?
Correct.
These particular 5 benzodiazepines, do you know where they fall in the type of drug, what the general effects of those drugs are?
Benzos tend to be central nervous system depressants.
Okay. And the ones that were detected, but you don't have the levels for, mirtazapine, and the list I read, what category are those drugs?
Those tend to also be central nervous system depressants. Quetiapine in particular is usually known to treat bipolar disorder or schizophrenia.
And as it pertains to the presence of the 5 benzodiazepines, your testing is limited in that you don't know whether that was from one medication or multiple medications, correct?
Correct, because the nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam tend to be metabolites of diazepam.
No further questions.
Tree ready. Morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
Not too bad yourself?
All right. Just a couple of brief questions. First of all, this would be a blood sample that was taken from Lindsay on a particular, like one day. This is not a panel of a bunch of different samples, right?
To my knowledge, there would have been a few different test tubes submitted to us. I'm
Okay,
not
test
sure.
tubes, but when you draw in other words, when you draw the blood, it would basically be the same time that they put it in different test tubes.
Yes, I'm not familiar with these specific ones, like if they were done over a span of time. But usually,
That's fair enough. I mean, but you have the test tubes and you know that it's Lindsay Clancy's blood, right?
yes,
And you'd agree with me that that's a fairly large number of drugs and metabolites that are in that particular blood sample, right?
I have seen more.
I'm sure, but nevertheless, that's still a large number of drugs though, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
And you don't know, as a working your job for the state police at that time, you don't know how many of these drugs are coming from scripts, prescriptions, and things of that nature, right?
No.
One of the things that you had mentioned were metabolites, and you said that because the district attorney asked you about different benzodiazepines, this PAM, that PAM, this PAM, that PAM, and then you responded and said, yeah, but there's a lot of metabolites involved in that, right? What does that mean?
So a metabolite is just a breakdown of anything usually by the body. So you have what we call a parent drug, and the body, if you ingest that, the body would then break it down or put it into a more digestible form in order to get rid of it.
Okay. So when you have a number of metabolites, for example, someone may have a prescription for amitriptyline or a prescription for Zoloft or Ativan or something. And they take the pill and it's in their system, and then over time it would metabolize, and there'd be different PAMs or whatever it is that would break down into the blood. Is that right?
Yes.
How about tetrahydrocannabinols, THC, marijuana? What was the level on that?
To my knowledge, we didn't find any.
No marijuana, right?
Correct.
Thank you very much, sir.
Attorney Buckingham, any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Please sit down there. All right. Come on.
Your Honor, at this time, upon agreement, I'd ask to admit as the next exhibit, just a chart that the parties have agreed upon that lists the brand names of some of the drugs that have been spoken about throughout the course of the trial, as well as what they were also known as for the ease of the jurors.
All right.
It's by agreement, Judge.
All right. All right. So by agreement, that may be admitted.
And the Commonwealth would call Dr. Jonathan Brower as its next witness.
Good morning, sir. Morning. Can you stop right here and raise your right hand for the clerk, please?
Good morning. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the
A new witness is approaching the witness stand. We can't hear the swearing him in right now.
Watch your step, please.
Can't hear what they said.
All right. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
All right. Ask you to keep your voice up so the jury can hear you. And with that, counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. Can you please tell the jurors your first and last name?
It's Justin Brower, Brower.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a forensic toxicologist for NMS Laboratories.
And where is that laboratory located?
The laboratory is located in Horsham, Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia.
And what does your laboratory do?
We are a reference laboratory. We do postmortem work, clinical work, and forensic drug work. So primarily my role is on the forensic side. I'm a forensic toxicologist.
And does your lab receive specimens from all across the country?
We do. We have clients in all 50 states. We do approximately half of the postmortem work in the United States, as well as a large number of clinical clients.
And is your lab accredited across several states and across the country?
We are, because we deal with, all the states in the United States, all the states in the country. We are accredited by just about every accrediting body that I'm aware of in the clinical and forensic aspects, as well as a lot of state certifications. So a lot of states have their own requirements. The most notable one is like New York State. So we're accredited by, again, every accrediting body that I'm aware of.
And how long have you worked for NMS Laboratory?
4 years as of August 1st.
And what's your educational background as a forensic toxicologist?
I have a PhD in organic chemistry.
Where did you get that from?
The University of Nevada.
And do you have any other professional experience in this field prior to working for NMS?
I do. Before joining NMS Laboratories, I was a laboratory supervisor and then forensic toxicologist for the North Carolina Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, which is a statewide system. So we did the postmortem toxicology work for all 100 counties of the state of North Carolina.
And when it comes to your role in the forensic area of doing the toxicology testing, what is your role in the NMS lab when it comes to cases that come to the laboratory for forensic analysis?
So when a case comes into NMS and is logged in, and the assigned or the requested test assigned and then run and reviewed multiple times in the laboratory. When all that testing is completed, it comes to the toxicology department, and my role is to review every aspect of that case. So I'm making sure that everything on the toxicology report is complete and accurate, such as all the demographic information that we have available to us, the name of the decedent or the patient, date of birth, where it's from, the specimens that we received, and then also that all of everything that is reported is complete and accurate. Making sure that all the drugs that were tested for are reported, that the reported concentrations are correct and accurate, and looking at every piece of raw data accumulated from the laboratory with that case, associated with that case.
Fair to say the NMS laboratory uses a batch review workflow.
That is correct. So we not only run the cases in batches, so we don't run it one case at a time. That's not very efficient. I don't really know of any laboratory that does that anymore. So we will run cases, 10, 15, 30 or 40 at a time.
So as far as running a particular test and getting the raw data, that's usually done by other people in the laboratory, correct?
That is correct.
And then you come in at the end and review everything and have the ability to interpret the data.
That is correct.
Your training and experience as a forensic toxicologist, does that allow you to interpret concentration levels of particular types of drugs?
It does.
Now, as far as the testing done at NMS laboratories, the traditional testing is kind of the drug testing, the panels for different common drugs, correct?
And typically, we have clients request panels to be run where we're looking for, multiple drugs and classes of drugs at a time.
But are there circumstances when outside laboratories or outside individuals retain your lab in order to run specific tests?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I'm going to draw your attention to this particular case. Was your laboratory provided a blood sample from the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab in April of 2023?
I believe so. I'd really like to see the toxicology report so I can just confirm all of that, please.
Sure.
Sure.
This is Dr. Justin Brower.
Thank you so much.
A forensic toxicologist,
Hang on to that.
That's fine.
Okay.
looking at the lab report.
Correct. We received the specimens on April 7th, 2023.
And it came from the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab?
No. I don't know where they were initially sent from, but the client or the submitting agency is the District Attorney's Office of Plymouth.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to the requested testing that was done, was it that panel that you described, or was it more specific testing?
This is what we call direct testing, where they requested just 4 specific drugs to be tested for.
And what were the 4 specific tests requested?
Lamotrigine, mirtazapine, quetiapine, and trazodone.
Are you familiar with those substances or those drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
And you reviewed all of the data and information done at your lab in regards to these tests, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they able to identify concentration levels in the sample that was submitted for each one of those 4 substances?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the first, can you tell us what the result was?
Would you like me just run down the list?
Sure.
Okay. We detected lamotrigine in a concentration of 6.1 micrograms per milliliter. Mirtazapine at a concentration of 200 nanograms per milliliter. Quetiapine at a concentration of 1,800 nanograms per milliliter. And trazodone at a concentration of 0.44 micrograms per milliliter. And these were all in blood.
In blood. And so with each drug that you just listed, are you familiar with what the common name is for the drugs?
I'm not always that great with common names, but I can wing it.
Okay. Well, the lamotrigine, and forgive me if I botched
That's okay.
the pronunciation, that's also referred to commonly as Lamictal.
It is correct, Lamictal.
What kind of drug is that?
It's typically used as an anti-seizure medication. So if somebody has a seizure disorder, it can be prescribed to alleviate seizures, but it is also used for bipolar disorder as well.
And mirtazapine, fair to say that's commonly referred to as Remeron.
Correct.
And what kind of drug is that?
That isn't typically an antidepressant.
And quetiapine, what's that common drug?
Quetiapine is known as Seroquel.
And fair to say that's an antipsychotic as well for
Yes.
bipolar?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with whether that often can be prescribed in low doses for sleep?
It is. It can be for insomnia.
And trazodone, what's the common name for trazodone, if you know?
I am drawing a blank on the trazodone.
If I suggest trazamine, is that familiar?
Not the one I'm most familiar with, and I apologize.
That's okay, but you're familiar with trazodone.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
what class of drug is that?
That's an antidepressant.
Now, in your review of the levels that were detected in these 4 tests for each of these substances, do any of these levels appear to be outside therapeutic concentration levels?
The only one that's a little elevated would be the quetiapine.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a very short break at this time, all right? So this will be a short break and we'll come right back, all right?
All right.
The judge is requesting a short break in this case. We will monitor this and so they'll be getting back hopefully very, very shortly. But a lot of course, very technical. Technical drug from the toxicology and from Dr. Justin Brower, who's a forensic toxicologist. That's who we've just been listening to. So the fight in this case is, of course, over the mental state of Lindsay Clancy, right? Did Lindsay Clancy intentionally perform the physical acts that caused the deaths of her children? And did a severe and mental disease or defect prevent her from appreciating that her actions were wrong or prevent her from conforming her behavior to the law? Under Massachusetts law, once evidence of a lack of criminal responsibility is introduced, the Commonwealth carries the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was criminally responsible. That's an enormous part of this case. The defense does not have to prove postpartum psychosis beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution must ultimately convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay Clancy remained legally responsible for her actions. And what in this case is the prosecution's theory? Well, the prosecution is presenting this as a deliberate and organized series of acts, right? Their theory is that Lindsay created an opportunity to be alone with the children by sending Patrick away on errands. The prosecution will emphasize the sequence. Patrick leaves the house. Lindsay is alone with the children. All 3 children are strangled. Lindsay then injures herself and jumps from the window. From a law enforcement perspective, the prosecution is going to focus heavily on what we call behavioral evidence, not simply that Lindsay said later, but what she did before, during, and after the killings. Did she formulate a plan? Did she manipulate Patrick into leaving? Did she select a time when no other adult would be present? Did she use a separate ligature against each child? Did she understand that her actions would cause death? Did she attempt to conceal anything? Did she provide accurate or misleading information afterward? Every action will be examined for evidence of awareness, planning, and Professor Geary's favorite, consciousness of guilt. The prosecution has described Lindsay as controlling and manipulative and disputes the argument that her behavior was entirely driven by psychosis. Prosecutors are also challenging the defense's portrayal of her suicide attempt, pointing to medical testimony describing some of her self-inflicted wounds as superficial. But we have to be precise here. A superficial injury does not automatically prove that a suicide attempt was staged. So all of these factors are taken into consideration. Likewise, a serious injury does not automatically prove legal insanity, but prosecution must connect the physical evidence to Lindsay's mental state. That will require more than emotion. It will require expert psychiatric testimony and a careful reconstruction of her behavior. And the defense theory is postpartum psychosis. The defense, led by attorney Kevin Reddington, argues that Lindsay Clancy was suffering from a severe psychiatric crisis. So that is the whole defense's argument against the prosecution. According to the defense, Lindsay experienced postpartum psychosis along with symptoms associated with bipolar disorder after the birth of Callan. The defense claims she experienced command hallucinations, voices directing her to kill the children, and believes she had to kill them before she could end her own life. Her lawyers also contend that she was misdiagnosed and prescribed numerous psychiatric medications that worsened her condition. The defense will likely ask the jury to see the case not as the actions of an angry or hateful mother, but as the catastrophic result of a mind that had become detached from reality. So these are the defense to these charges against Lindsay Clancy. The defense will also point to a history of anxiety, insomnia, depression, and feelings of being overwhelmed. Jurors have heard entries from Lindsay's personal journals in which she described feeling as though she was drowning, struggling to care for 3 children, losing her appetite, and desperately wanting help. Those writings are important because they existed before the killings. They were not created after her arrest for use in a legal defense. That gives them potential evidentiary value as a contemporaneous record of her mental deterioration. However, those journal entries alone do not establish legal insanity. Many people experience severe depression, insomnia, intrusive thoughts, and overwhelming anxiety without losing the ability to recognize right from wrong. The defense must establish that Lindsay's symptoms went much further, that she had crossed into psychosis and had lost meaningful contact with reality. And then what they're looking at now, of course, is the medication evidence and all of this testimony from a forensic toxicologist, from the state crime lab, on what was in the system of Lindsay Clancy when these murders took place, or afterwards, based on the toxicology tests that were performed. And the medication evidence will be another major battleground in this case. Lindsay has reportedly been prescribed several psychiatric medications during the months leading up to the deaths. The defense argues that this medication history shows that she was being unsuccessfully treated while her condition continued to deteriorate. Prosecutors will likely argue that medication use does not automatically establish psychosis or eliminate criminal responsibility. Toxicology testing found no illegal drugs or alcohol in her system, although benzodiazepines were detected. That's a tough word to pronounce there. That evidence may become significant when experts discuss whether the medications could have affected her judgment, impulse control, memory or perception of reality. Jurors will need to separate three different concepts: being medicated, being over-medicated, and being legally insane. Those are not interchangeable. The fact that a person was prescribed psychiatric medication does not mean the medication caused a homicide. The defense will have to establish a credible medical condition between Lindsay's treatment, her symptoms, and her condition on January 24th, 2023. The prosecution will attempt to break that connection. So, as you could see, this is a very complex case, very complicated. Simi Sharp, I know that you've been following this case from the very beginning, and you have some very good input in regards to what's going on here. And again, this is not the run-of-the-mill, guilt, where guilt must be established. It's admitted at the outset that Lindsay Clancy committed these murders, but the defense is clearly her state of mind, her mental disease or defect, or caused by the ingestion of prescribed drugs, some of these psychiatric drugs. So these are some of the things that we are going to be checking on. Simi Sharp from the chat. In fact, she was desperately seeking help for her mental health before her last child was born. In my opinion, the mental health community let her down, and by proxy, the children. Very, very plausible theory, Simi. And from Kim Alliston, Simi, so sad. In my opinion, it's good that her ex-husband is standing with her. Yeah, I mean, again from Simi Sharp, Kim, he knew she was fighting against her illness, and he had been her advocate with her doctors. They tried for years. So there is a history of mental illness and a history of trying to get perhaps the mental health community to do the right thing, perhaps to change her treatment, to change her drug prescriptions that were not helping her. And that is, it could be exactly what this trial hinges upon. And again, complicated thing, for the prosecution to prove that those things didn't affect her, and complicated for the defense to mount a defense that shows that whatever mental disease or defect she had was being treated incorrectly using the drugs that were prescribed by the mental health professionals. From the chat, Byington 3798, I agree with profiler Pat Brown. That's all I'll state. Well, Byington, why don't you enlighten us and tell us what the profiler Pat Brown said in regards to this case? That would help us, because just making that statement doesn't help our audience, or me for that matter, since I don't know what he said. And if anyone knows, including Simi or Kim, let us know what profiler Pat Brown said in regards to this case. And Simi Sharp, Patrick, her ex-husband, asked the doctors to take her off of everything and start over, but they wouldn't. Well, you know something, it's easy for a non-professional, especially when it's the husband of the subject here, the suspect Lindsay Clancy, to approach the mental health people and say, I want you to start all over. The mental health professionals, I think, are guided by their training and everything. But Madeline 6262, I think she is a victim of mental illness. Absolutely. Maui Swift, good to see you. Women's mental health in this regard is easily dismissed. You know, Maui, I think not just women's mental health. I think mental health is a very complex area of medicine. And a lot of times with mental health, specifically drug therapy is what they would call it. It's difficult for a patient sometimes to find the right drug that works on that person because not all drugs work the same way on all people. So perhaps we've seen it in our own families, people that have had mental illness and a certain drug didn't work on them, and then they find the drug and all of a sudden it's like their life has improved tremendously. Byington. Pat Brown thinks she knew what she was doing, planning and all. I don't know, but 3 babies are dead. Byington 3798. I'm always a suspect of these mental health or defect defenses. I think that A, they're very hard to prove. B, it could be used much more often than it is used. So to actually prove that what caused this person to murder 3 children was a mental disease or defect compounded by incorrectly prescribed psychotic medications. So I am no expert whatsoever on pharmacology or toxicology or any of those things, but I can understand mental illness and people's actions and what makes them responsible or not responsible for their actions. So I think even in the chat, we've probably have a lot of people in the chat that have had family members that have not responded to prescriptions for mental illness. And I think that in this case, that's pretty much the defense. Not just that she didn't respond, but she, according to her husband, Patrick, was prescribed the wrong drugs for her conditions. They were not, in fact, effective. They were not, in fact, working. Patrick Clancy's testimony is among the most no, Simi, I'm back. Excuse me, Maui. I'm back on the. I'm back on. I just took myself off the screen for a second, but I'm back anyway. I never left, but I was just off the screen for a second. So this everyone's worried about where I am. Here I'm back. I'm back. Madeline 6262. I'm back up on the screen. So Patrick has publicly expressed forgiveness toward Lindsay and has described her as a loving mother before her mental health crisis. That makes his testimony extremely complicated for both sides. For the defense, Patrick can describe Lindsay's decline and efforts to obtain treatment. For the prosecution, Patrick may also establish that you, well, they're back up on the screen. I'm going to go back through this, the courtroom. The recess is over. They are back after a short break.
All right, jurors entering.
The judge is entering the courtroom. Everyone is rising. Everyone in the courtroom is standing up. For those that are listening and not watching this, the procedures
This
will...
court's now in session. Please be seated.
All right, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including Ms. Clancy and including the 18 jurors.
All right. All right. Counsel?
Thank you. Dr. Brower, before we broke, we mentioned the term therapeutic concentration. You familiar with that term?
Correct.
What does that mean?
It's the typical concentration that one would achieve when they're taking the medication or drug as indicated by their prescriber.
And are you familiar with toxic concentrations or suicidal concentrations?
I am.
And what does that mean?
Those are concentrations that could lead to adverse events and potentially death.
Now, in relation to the 4 substances that were tested at the NMS laboratory, you identified the levels for each of the 4 substances. Were any of those concentration levels considered within therapeutic concentration?
It would all be in what I would say a therapeutic concentration, except maybe the quetiapine, which is slightly elevated.
Okay. And in your experience as a forensic toxicologist, have you had the occasion to review cases, post-mortem cases in which suicide was a mechanism of death where the person consumed medication?
Absolutely, yes.
And so that level of the quetiapine at the 800 nanograms per milliliter, would that have been in that toxic or suicidal level?
No, ma'am.
Would you generally expect to see that significantly greater in a suicide case?
Typically, quetiapines in suicide cases might be in the, close to 10,000 nanograms per milliliter. Usually people take handfuls of pills when they're trying to harm themselves and take their own life, and this is not consistent with that.
Now, are you also familiar in your training and experience with the class of drugs called benzodiazepines?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have the occasion to interpret data as it pertains to concentration levels for those?
Every single day.
And as far as the substances diazepam, noradiazepam, oxazepam, temazepam, lorazepam, you're familiar with those?
I am.
And it's fair to say noradiazepam, oxazepam, temazepam, those are all metabolites of diazepam?
Typically, yes, ma'am.
And what's the common name for diazepam?
Valium.
If I show you what's been marked as Exhibit 183 already. Can you see that on the screen beside you?
I can, yes.
Okay.
They're just showing the lab report up on the screen right now. The different concentration of drugs.
They're all blurry.
Yep, hold on. There you go.
My eyesight's not great too, so
Okay, so
That's
I think
perfect.
that's the best I can do with the autofocus.
don't touch it.
Anything about the levels that you observed here regarding those substances, those benzodiazepines, that tell you that they're outside therapeutic concentration levels?
The diazepam and the nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam metabolites, the diazepam looks to be sub-therapeutic, meaning lower than what is typically expected from a therapeutic dose. Most therapeutic doses of diazepam, which is an anxiolytic drug or an anti-anxiety drug, are typically 200, 250 thereabouts nanogram per milliliter. The lorazepam, depending upon the dose, could be a therapeutic concentration, if not maybe a little bit lower than expected.
Now, when you're reviewing these cases as the reporting forensic toxicologist, are there limitations on what you can say about the effects of these types of medications?
We can speak as to the general effects that drugs can have on the general population, but we try to restrict ourselves from saying with absolute certainty that a drug will have this effect on this specific person, because we just aren't there to witness their behavior.
Okay, so that was kind of the follow-up. So
I'm sorry.
What are the things that are the unknowns for you when you're just looking at data?
When we say that we can't do toxicology in a vacuum. You can't know everything about the case just by looking at numbers on a toxicology report and drugs on a toxicology report. You need other information to have an informed opinion. In the postmortem world, that would be the investigation itself, the history of the case, the scene findings, interviews with families and friends of the decedent. As well as autopsy findings as well. In a case like this, where it's not a decedent and the person is alive, you still need to know some facts of the case, some sort of history of the case, like what happened. So just numbers on a page, you can just make very generalized types of opinions, such as that looks to be therapeutic, it looks to be high, it looks to be low, and then again, just the general effects on the drugs on people.
And in this particular instance, you were not provided any further information about the case or the investigation in order to make any more opinions about effects.
I knew nothing about this case until we spoke, I think it was probably a few weeks ago.
And as far as the information available to you, you only had the data from the specimen that was tested, correct?
That is correct. Just these 4 drugs that were requested to be tested for.
And as far as the drugs, the 4 drugs that were tested by your lab, what are the general characteristics of some of those drugs?
So these are generally antidepressants and antipsychotic medications. So if somebody had, the lamotrigine, if somebody has, say, bipolar disorder, like wild mood swings, depressive episodes or psychotic episodes, these drugs could be prescribed. They also have depressant effects, so they could make people become, lethargic or sleepy.
Okay, and would any of the combination of these drugs cause a person to stop breathing?
It is possible, especially the mirtazapine, quetiapine, the trazodone, and then the 2 other benzodiazepines. Those are all central nervous system depressants, so they could, in large combinations or large concentrations and in combination with each other, cause central nervous system depression, which could reduce people's respiration rates.
But in the levels that you observed in the testing that your lab did, as well as what I just showed you from Exhibit 183, is there anything about those concentration levels that would give you a sense that the person could have stopped breathing as a result of these?
Not necessarily, but if I had the information that, a patient presented to an emergency department and they had labored breathing and weren't breathing adequately, and I had this information, then you could probably tie all that together. But without that extra information, then generally no.
Based on the levels alone, you can't give any sort of opinion?
I would like to not.
Okay. And finally, are you familiar with the drug Narcan?
I am.
And what kind of effect does the drug Narcan have on a person who has consumed these drugs, if any?
Just these drugs that we've talked about here today?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely nothing.
Can you explain to us why it is that Narcan wouldn't have an effect?
Narcan is an opioid overdose reversal agent. It is an opioid antagonist. So it binds to the opioid receptors. So it doesn't allow other opioids like, say, fentanyl or oxycodone to bind to those receptors to have, to exert its effects. So it only works on opioids. None of these drugs work on the opioid receptors, so Narcan would have no effect whatsoever on these drugs.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Reddington.
Good morning.
Dr. Brower, so one of the things that you had mentioned is that you, and I think I would quote you, I would like not to give an opinion without basically the underlying facts. In other words, what you're saying is that the numbers alone do not tell the tale of what happened to a particular individual, right?
Correct. They don't tell the entire story.
Right. And you're, for NMS Laboratory, you were retained or working for the DA's office, these people here, right?
That was the submitting agency, correct.
And they certainly were not constrained from picking up the phone and calling you and telling you that this is blood from a woman that threw herself out a window and tried to kill herself after cutting her wrists and her neck. They could have told you that, right?
Overruled.
It's possible that does happen in rare occasions in high-profile cases.
Right. And so that would have been something, for example, the facts that you wanted to know, that you would have liked to have known to kind of round out your opinion about the actual level of the drugs in the blood that you examined, right?
It's not necessary.
Well, it's not necessary, but you did indicate that you would like to not give an opinion without the facts.
Correct.
Okay.
Today.
From the witness stand.
Correct. I don't have all the information.
Of course. And the word therapeutic, is that consistent with, in other words, the treatment level of a particular narcotic or drug in the blood?
Correct. It's the concentration of the drug in the body to elicit an effect or the desired effect.
The defense attorney is approaching to get a document that he's going to refer to right now. Handing it back. And when you can't hear them talk, that's because they're not by their microphone. He's receiving another document from the court clerk. There's language where he's speaking right now. You can't hear him. Simi Sharp, therapeutic levels equals prescribed doses. Thank you, Simi. Danny Mitchell, her attorney, is excellent.
As it relates to the therapeutic level, sir, is it your understanding that the lorazepam, lorazepam, clonazepam, counsel had asked you about the benzodiazepines were within therapeutic, thank you, within therapeutic level?
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They were within therapeutic level?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the entire question?
Sure. What is lamotrigine?
Lamotrigine is typically used as an anti-seizure medication and could also be used for bipolar disorder.
Okay. Do you have the results for your lab in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Toxicology? Yeah, you can read along just so you can refresh your memory if it helps. The lamotrigine, it says 6.1. What does that mean?
6.1 micrograms per milliliter. So there were 6.1 micrograms of lamotrigine per milliliter of blood.
All right. Is that above therapeutic, below therapeutic, or therapeutic?
It's right in the middle of the therapeutic range.
So if somebody had a prescription, for example, for that narcotic or that drug, then they were taking the drug according to the recommended dose, right?
And that's what it would appear to me if they were prescribed it, correct?
How about the mirtazapine?
The mirtazapine also looks to be probably used appropriately as prescribed.
And you need a prescription for that, don't you?
Yes, you need a prescription for all four of these drugs.
Okay. And what is there another name for mirtazapine?
Remeron.
Remeron. All right. And what is the purpose, or what do you use Remeron for?
It's an antidepressant.
How about the quetiapine is the number 3?
The quetiapine is also known as Seroquel, and that is generally used as an antipsychotic.
And what does that mean when you say an antipsychotic? What does that mean?
So somebody has psychotic episodes, say like hallucinations or just not seeing reality like quote unquote normal person would, they could be prescribed quetiapine as an antipsychotic to try to kind of level out their brain chemistry.
And what was the result on the quetiapine?
1,800 nanograms per milliliter.
Now, is that within therapeutic? Is that below or high?
It looks high to me, depending upon the dosage.
Okay. And trazodone is the next one. What is that?
Trazodone is also an antidepressant.
And what's the result on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, 0.44 micrograms per milliliter.
Okay. And is that therapeutic, below therapeutic, or above therapeutic?
I would say that's a therapeutic concentration.
Okay. So basically, with the exception of the quetiapine that was 1,800 nanograms per, what is a nanogram? What does that mean? Nanograms per milliliter. What does that mean?
It's a very, very small amount. It's 1/1,000,000th of a milligram.
Okay.
This is
And that's
Dr.
how you
Justin
measure
Brower,
the quantity
forensic
of a particular
toxicologist.
substance that would be in a person's blood, correct?
In the blood, correct.
So on the quetiapine at 1,800 nanograms per milliliter, that's the only one that was not therapeutic. That was a little higher than therapeutic. Is that correct?
Correct. It's approximately maybe double what you might expect. So it's, when I say it's a little elevated, it's not in a concentration that I would consider to be necessarily toxic or lethal.
Okay. And you don't know, working for NMS labs, or whether or not a person had a prescription for these drugs, or when they got the prescription, or who gave them the prescription. You don't know that, right?
I have none of that information, no.
You could have known that if somebody had told you that, but you don't know it from looking at the numbers that we have here, right?
Correct. It's possible if they would have given us that information. We don't always need to have it, though.
This is what I offered
Can I just see it again?
So defense attorneys establishing she was taking her meds as prescribed, according to Simi Sharp, our excellent court reporter here.
If we can just approach briefly on the issue.
Yeah.
Defense and prosecution are now approaching the bench. Speaking about the concentrations of the drugs that Lindsay Clancy, that was found inside the body of Lindsay Clancy. So again, the defense is trying to get all the information in regards to show that Lindsay Clancy was improperly medicated. And that's what caused the behavior in regards to the murder of her 3 children and the jumping out of a window. Danny, just back it up 30 seconds and replay that part. Simi Sharp is very invested. Sidebar, Massachusetts accent. Yeah, side. In New York, we say sidebar. Yeah, maybe not as pleasant to hear as the Massachusetts accent, but it's they are on a sidebar right now. So in the husband's testimony, for the prosecution, Patrick also did establish, that's the husband, the ex-husband of Lindsay, that she was capable of functioning, communicating, planning errands, and caring for the children. The jury may find Patrick highly credible because he appears to have no interest in revenge, but forgiveness is not the same as a legal opinion. Patrick can describe what he observed. He cannot tell the jury whether Lindsay met Massachusetts' legal definition of criminal responsibility. That decision belongs to the jury. We also know, again, in the chat, Simi Sharp, I just pay attention when I watch a trial. I love learning things. That's great, Simi. Maui Swift, Kevin Reddington is one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Boston. Complicated case, Maui, and, a lot of issues raised in these cases that you don't see in everyday criminal cases. In this case, the jury was taken to the house, and they were taken to the former home of the Clancys, right? And in Duxbury, they saw the basement where the children were found, the second story from which Lindsay jumped, and the locations involved in Patrick's errands. A jury view is unusual, but it can be important when the physical layout of a crime scene relates to the prosecution's theory of planning and opportunity. Photographs can show individual rooms. A visit allows jurors to understand distance, visibility, movement, and timing. The prosecution may use the layout to argue that Lindsay consciously moved the children, selected the basement, and carried out a sequence. Oh, they're back into the courtroom right now. So we'll go back. Okay, we're back live. This is defense attorney Reddington approaching the witness stand. He's not speaking into the mic, so it's a little more difficult to hear him. As they say, he's old school. So he's just, the courtroom is his stage, right?
Dr. Brower, you, in fact, once got this case for review, you authored a corrected report in regards to this case, correct?
Correct.
At this point, I would move to admit the report.
All right, that may be admitted as well.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, thank you, sir.
All right. All right, thank you, Doctor.
Am I released?
You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. John Brower has been released from testimony right now. He's leaving the witness stand.
Your Honor, prior to the next witness, the Commonwealth would move to submit 4 stipulations the parties have entered into. The first being a stipulation regarding DNA known standard samples. The second being a stipulation regarding DNA evidence for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain on the basement floor. The third being the stipulation regarding DNA evidence for the yellow exercise band and the black exercise band. And the fourth being the stipulation regarding DNA comparisons for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain in the basement.
That's right, we don't need to have all those witnesses.
All right, so those stipulations may be entered as exhibits. Counsel, do you want those published or read to the jury, or satisfied that they'll have those? The parties can refer to the contents of the stipulations.
The only one we would like to have read to the jury, I'm sorry, are you all set?
That's on me. I kind of jumped in there. I'm sorry.
Exhibits 208 through 211.
The judge and the prosecutor are speaking about evidence to be presented. You can't hear her because she's not speaking into her microphone at this point. So I'm trying to give you the play-by-play. Simi Sharp. Patrick stated that her psychosis would wane and wave, so even if she was coherent to do things before he left the house that day, she could snap at any time. None of the doctors warned him not to leave her alone with the children.
So, members of the jury, remember, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I talked a little bit about those stipulations. So the same instructions. These are facts that I'm going to read that the parties have agreed to, that you can rely on in arriving at your verdict at the end of this case. This is one of 4 that was just introduced. You'll have all 4 of them with you back in the jury room when you deliberate. But so let me just read this one stipulation. This doesn't mean this stipulation is any more important than any of the other ones, but the parties would like me to just read this one here. All right, so this is a stipulation regarding the DNA comparisons for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain, was marked A. Now, in the above captioned matter, the parties agree to the following facts as it pertains to the DNA comparisons for the blue exercise band and the red-brown stain A in the basement. Number one, forensic scientist Emily Oliver reviewed and interpreted the data relating to the question items, parentheses, item 2-4, blue exercise band, and item 3-3, the red-brown stain A from the basement floor, close parentheses, and conducted comparison analysis to the known standards in this case. Number two, the parties agreed to the following conclusions regarding comparison analysis of these items. A, item 2-4.1.1, sample from the ends of the blue exercise band. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. There are 5 individuals who have a likelihood ratio that indicates an inclusion in the profile. They are Dawson Clancy, Callan Clancy, Cora Clancy, Lindsay Clancy, and Patrick Clancy. B, item 2-4.2.1, sample from the middle of the blue exercise band. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. Callan Clancy is included as a major contributor. And C, item 3-3.1, sample of swabs from the red-brown stain A on the basement floor. The DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. Cora Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. So that's the stipulation that the parties have agreed to. All right.
And one last stipulation to be marked as the next exhibit, the stipulation regarding the batch work done at NMS Labs. We're not asking that this be read at this time.
Okay, all right.
The Commonwealth would call Katerina Stashin.
Good morning, ma'am. You stop right there, raise your right hand for the pledge, please.
Good morning. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in the evidence you shall give before the jury and the matter now having between the Commonwealth and independent class shall be true?
Yes.
Thank you. You may have a seat.
Watch your step.
The witness just being sworn in, Katerina
Good morning.
Stanchion.
Good morning.
All right. Attorney Sprague, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Good morning. My name is Katerina Stashin. My first name is spelled Katarina. Last name is spelled Stashyn.
And can you describe for us your educational background?
I have a bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology from the University of Nevada, Reno.
And what is your occupation?
I'm currently employed by the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Forensic Science Division, which is located in Reno, Nevada. I'm a criminalist in the biology and forensic investigation sections.
Back in January of 2023, where were you working?
I previously worked for the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory as a forensic scientist in the DNA unit, which is functionally the same role that I currently have in the biology section.
And
I'm sorry. We agreed to the DNA. I'm just letting you know that.
Okay, all right.
and I'm just
Attorney Sprague?
giving that evidence to the jury.
Go ahead.
So when did you start working for the state police?
I worked for the Massachusetts State Police from June 2021 to February of 2025.
And what was the nature of your work for the lab at that time?
As a DNA analyst, I processed evidence items obtained either from a crime scene or from an individual associated with a criminal investigation. These items of evidence would be processed through the laboratory. I then would perform interpretations, comparisons as needed, write reports. I also could perform administrative reviews of other analysts' work and provide expert witness testimony as needed.
And part of your employment at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab, did you take competency tests and proficiency tests to guarantee that you were capable and proficient in the areas you were working?
Yes, I took both competency tests after my training and proficiency tests throughout my career at Massachusetts and at my current role.
And have you passed all of those tests?
Yes, I have passed all competency and proficiency tests that I've taken so far in my career.
Can you tell us what is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and this is genetic information that is stored in our cells. This is information that makes us who we are, determines how we develop and grow. A person's DNA is inherited approximately half from their mom and half from their dad. DNA is forensically relevant because it is expected that no two individuals will have the same forensic DNA profile.
And is DNA the same in every single cell in a person's body?
Yes, the DNA profile obtained from different cells, different cell types, like a blood cell or from a saliva cell or cell in your saliva, would have the same DNA profile, barring your mutation.
And can you explain generally the process used to analyze evidence, in this case, the testing involving the defendant, Lindsay Clancy?
The items tested in this case and in all cases will go through a 4-step laboratory process of extraction, quantification, amplification, and detection. And then profiles developed from that laboratory process will be interpreted and compared.
Can you just briefly explain what is extraction and how it's done?
Extraction is the first step of that laboratory process that involves applying a variation of heat and chemicals to a sample. This breaks open cells that are present and releases the DNA and then isolates that DNA.
And was the next step quantification?
Yes.
And what is that and how do you do that?
Quantification is the second step when we determine a reliable estimate for the amount of DNA in those samples that were extracted, and those values are then used to optimize the rest of the process with the goal to obtain a quality profile for that sample.
And the third step, amplification, can you explain that?
Amplification is when we make millions and millions of copies of certain areas of DNA to make it able to be detected and visualized.
And then detection, what is that?
And then the fourth step is separation or detection. This is where we separate out all those millions and millions of copies that we made to make them visual. This produces a DNA profile that an analyst is then able to review and interpret.
And when you worked at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab, were there certain standardized protocols and procedures that you used at that lab?
Yes.
And were there controls used in your testing?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So there are 2 different types of controls that were used in our testing. The first is a positive control. This is a sample that contains a known DNA profile, and it is processed alongside evidence samples. So when that known DNA profile is obtained at the end of the process, it confirms that the process is working appropriately. The second type of control is a negative control, and this is a sample that contains no DNA that is also processed alongside evidence samples. And this is able to monitor any contamination and confirm that clean technique is used during testing.
And does your work undergo a review process at the lab, or did it?
Yes, all work goes through 2 stages of review, technical review and administrative review. Technical review is when another qualified analyst reviews all of the work done in the file and in the report. They confirm that all protocols were followed and that correct conclusions were drawn. And then administrative review is when another analyst reviews that file, all of the documentation and the report for overall clerical accuracy and completeness.
And when you worked on lab number 23-01723, evidence involved in the deaths of Cora Clancy, Dawson Clancy, and Callan Clancy, did you follow the standardized protocols and procedures?
Yes.
Were there any issues with the controls that were present when you did this testing?
All controls were acceptable per the laboratory protocols.
And did your work undergo and pass that review process you just described?
Yes, all work went through both technical and administrative review.
And if we could talk specifically about the work that you did in this case, first, I'd like you to talk about your work done on the yellow exercise band and the black exercise band. Now, you didn't actually handle those items, correct?
I did a portion of the laboratory work for those samples, but I did not handle the actual bands themselves. I handled swabs of those bands.
So at some point in time in the lab, someone took swabs from those bands, and then that was forwarded to the DNA unit, the swabs?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, there was item 2-2.1.1, swabs from the ends of the yellow exercise band, and item 2-2.2.1, swabs from the middle of the yellow exercise band, correct?
Could I refer to my report to confirm that?
Any objection?
Thank you. Yes.
And when doing your comparison work, did you also use some DNA profiles that had been generated in the lab for Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy?
Yes, I utilized known standards that were developed from those individuals.
And known standards, are those basically the DNA profiles for each of those individuals?
Yes, known standards are samples collected directly from a known individual for comparison purposes.
And going to item 2-2.1.1, the swabs from the ends of the yellow exercise band, what were your findings?
So I'm going to start with a general statement for this report as a whole. The presence of multiple first-degree relatives in a mixture DNA profile can impact overall interpretation, including the determination of the number of contributors and likelihood ratios. Relatedness was considered for the following results. For item 2-2.1.1, sample from ends of yellow exercise band located in basement office, 47 Summer Street. The DNA profile is a mixture, including male DNA. Due to the possible relatedness of low-level contributors to this profile, an alternate number of contributors was considered. First, assuming 2 contributors. The DNA profile is a mixture of at least 2 contributors, including male DNA. Contributors 1 and 2 are suitable for comparison. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.7 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Dawson Clancy and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Dawson Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile. Assuming 3 contributors. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison. Due to limited information and possible relatedness of contributors, contributors 2 and 3 are not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile from this item is at least 920 octillion times more likely if it originated from Dawson Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Dawson Clancy is included to this DNA profile. Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy are excluded from contributor 1 of this DNA profile.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about what you've just told us. You mentioned the effect of relatedness. What does that mean?
So as I mentioned, an individual's DNA is inherited approximately 1/2 from their mom and 1/2 from their dad. So this means that there's a lot of DNA shared between relatives, including between parent and children and between siblings. So this can affect the determination of the number of contributors. So when I review the profile to see how many people are in that profile, because there's so much DNA that is shared. So taking that into account, I did 2 different interpretations, first assuming 2 contributors and the second assuming 3 contributors, again, just due to the complexity of relatedness and its effect on this profile, especially low-level contributors.
And would it be correct to state that when there is this level of relatedness where you have 2 parents and 3 siblings, that you can have false exclusions?
If there is an underassignment of the number of contributors, meaning that the number of contributors is incorrectly assigned lower than it actually is, which is a possibility with relatedness because you're working with less information because that information is shared. The underassigning could lead to false exclusions of true contributors.
Could you also miss some people to include?
Due to the effects of relatedness, it could be difficult to determine number of contributors simply because so much information is shared. Therefore, it is more complex when assigning this number.
And for item 2-2.1.1, the ends of the yellow exercise band, whether you considered 2 contributors or 3 contributors, both of your findings find that Dawson Clancy was a contributor, a potential contributor.
Both propositions, either 2 contributors or 3 contributors, had high inclusionary stats for Dawson Clancy, correct?
What's a nonillion?
Nonillion is a very large number.
Do you know how many people are on Earth?
I know it's,
This is typical DNA gobbledygook at this point, Judge.
Well, I object to his objection.
That's
Ridiculous.
overruled. Go ahead.
They're going to talk
You can
about
ask.
non-millions and how many.
Counsel, can I see you over at sidebar?
The defense attorney said this is typical DNA gobbledygook, and the prosecution objected to that, to him categorizing it as that. But I can understand why the defense is sort of going through reinventing the wheel almost, you know. Is this all necessary to you know, proceed with this case, to go over, basically give us all a lesson in DNA technology and that number that I don't think any of us have ever heard of before, but, and then asking her how many people are on this earth. And then that's when the defense attorney sort of came up with that, this is DNA gobbledygook. And so it's, that's what the sidebar is all about right now. So James Savory from the chat, 2868, it's hard for people to say they are suffering. Yes, this trial's definitely hit
Thank you, Your Honor.
a note for many people. They're back live.
1.7 nonillion. Is that more than there are people on the Earth?
that is more individuals that are on the earth, but I would like to clarify that a likelihood ratio is not a random match probability or a rarity of that profile. A likelihood ratio is a ratio that describes the probability of observing the DNA profile if a certain person is included versus the probability of observing that DNA profile if a certain person is excluded or if it is another unknown, unrelated individual.
And you said nonillion is a very high number, correct?
Yes, that's a very large number in my opinion.
So it's a very large probability that Dawson Clancy is a contributor to that mixture.
It is a large likelihood ratio that provides support for the inclusion of Dawson Clancy to the profile.
And then going to item 2-2.2.1, the swabs from the middle of the exercise band, what were your findings for that?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of two contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.5 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Dawson Clancy and an unknown individual than if it originated from two unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Dawson Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 3.6 million times more likely if it originated from Callan Clancy and an unknown individual than if it originated from two unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support that Callan Clancy is included as a contributor to this profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.4 billion times more likely if it originated from Patrick Clancy and an unknown individual than if it originated from two unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support that Patrick Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Cora Clancy and Lindsay Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile. The mixture DNA profile from this item is consistent with having originated from two individuals. There are 3 individuals who have a likelihood ratio that indicates an inclusion. Though there is support for the individual inclusions of Dawson Clancy, Callan Clancy, and Patrick Clancy to the mixture DNA profile, under the stated assumptions, these individuals cannot be present in the mixture together, assuming 1, 2 contributors, and 2, Dawson Clancy is one of the contributors, Callan Clancy and Patrick Clancy cannot be present in the mixture together. Support for inclusion may be impacted by mixtures which contain relative, especially first-degree relatives. Refer to the independent inclusionary statistics above.
So this swab from the middle of the yellow exercise band, you stated was a mixture of 2 contributors, 2 people, correct?
Yes, I determined using my training and experience that the profile was a mixture of 2 contributors.
And then you had 3 possible contributors, Dawson, Callan, and Patrick, for the 2-person mixture. So is it accurate that that relatedness issue was having an effect on those, on that data or that result?
Yes, relatedness of potential contributors was having an effect on this profile, and that is because so much DNA is shared between potential contributors.
And what you stated at the end, that if Dawson Clancy is one of the contributors, then Callan Clancy and Patrick Clancy cannot be present together in that mixture, correct?
Correct.
And Dawson Clancy was the one who had the 1.5 nonillion times more likely if it originated from him, correct?
Yes, the likelihood ratio for Dawson was 1.5 nonillion.
And would it be accurate to state that with male relatives, they share the same YSTR profile?
Yes, male relatives will share the same YSTR profile, barring rare mutation, but YSTR analysis was not done in this case.
Okay. And does that fact, when you have male relatives, does that affect the relatedness complications of your evaluation?
The fact that they're male doesn't necessarily have an effect, but just in general, relatedness has an effect in this case because so much DNA is shared between potential contributors.
And then going to item 2-3.1.1, the swabs from the ends of the black exercise band, you found that that sample was a mixture but wasn't suitable for comparison, correct?
Correct.
And what does it mean to be not suitable for comparison?
I'll read the statement in the report and then I'll clarify as needed. The DNA profile is a mixture, including male DNA, and is not suitable for comparison due to the complexity of the profile, the possibility of at least 5 contributors, and the relatedness of potential contributors.
So was it not suitable for comparison because there were so many potential contributors and many of them who were related?
Yes, there was multiple factors that made this profile not suitable. Relatedness was definitely one of those factors, and per laboratory protocols and validation, if there is any indication of a 5th contributor or more, a profile is not suitable for comparison due to limitations of our technology and software used.
Okay. So basically, if you're examining a profile and it looks like there's 5 or more, your work stops because of the limitations of your equipment.
Correct.
And then going to item 2-3.2.1, the swabs from the middle of the exercise band, what were your findings there?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 870 trillion times more likely if it originated from Dawson Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Dawson Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.6 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Cora Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Cora Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 2,600 times more likely if it originated from Callan Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Callan Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 220,000 times more likely if it originated from Patrick Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support that Patrick Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profile from this item is at least 11 times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides limited support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. The Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab DNA Unit validation studies showed inclusions for known non-contributors in the likelihood ratio range of at least 2 to 1,000 adventitious support could be attributed to this conclusion. The mixture DNA profile from this item is consistent with having originated from 3 individuals. There are 5 individuals who have a likelihood ratio that indicate an inclusion. Though there is support for the individual inclusions of Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy to the mixture DNA profile, under the stated assumptions, these individuals cannot be present in the mixture together. Assuming 1, 3 contributors, and 2, Cora Clancy is one of the contributors, Dawson Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy cannot be present in the mixture together. Support for inclusion may be impacted by mixtures which contain relatives, especially first-degree relatives. Refer to the independent inclusionary statistics above.
And so again here, you're dealing with the effect of the relatedness of the parties, correct?
Correct. Relatedness is having an effect on potential contributors, again, to this profile. I'd just like to say that likelihood ratios are calculated independently for each person. They are not to show a likelihood ratio for more than one person or multiple people together in a profile. And again, because so much DNA is shared between potential contributors, that is why we're seeing some of the things we're seeing in this report.
And for this item, the middle of the black exercise band, the highest number of possible inclusion was the 1.6 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Cora Clancy and 2 unknown individuals, correct?
Yes, the highest statistic for this item was a likelihood ratio of 1.6 nonillion for Cora Clancy.
And based on your analysis of the data that you had, you determined it was a mixture of 3 contributors, correct?
Correct.
And so when you have the 3 contributors and Cora Clancy has the highest likelihood of being a contributor, if you include her in the mixture, the other 4 members of the family are excluded, correct?
Assuming 1, 3 contributors, and 2, Cora Clancy is one of the contributors, Dawson Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy cannot be present in the mixture together. Again, those statistics are all calculated independently and don't say anything about those people being in the mixture together.
And moving on to some other work you did in this case, specifically some swabs from the back side of the house, some shingles on 47 Summer Street in Duxbury, items 14-1, 14-2, and 14-3. Did you do work on those samples as well and compare them to the known profiles of Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, Patrick Clancy, and Lindsay Clancy?
Your Honor, may I refer to my second report for these items? Thank you. Yes, I did work on those items in my second report.
And direct your attention to item 14-1, a swab from stain B on the back side of the house, 47 Summer Street. What were your findings regarding that swab?
The female DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. The DNA profile from this item is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, and Patrick Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile.
And so unlike the samples and profiles we talked about earlier, this sample 14-1, the swab from stain B, wasn't a mixture, correct? It was just one person's DNA?
Correct. This was a single contributor profile.
And your findings was that Lindsay Clancy is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than an unknown, unrelated individual.
The DNA profile from this item is at least 18 octillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile.
And so it's support that she's included as a contributor to this profile of one person, correct?
Yes, there is support with a likelihood ratio of 18 octillion for Lindsay Clancy.
And the other members of the family were excluded, correct?
Correct.
And then item 14-2, the swab from stain C on the backside of the house, 47 Summer Street. That profile was a mixture and not suitable for comparison, correct?
Correct. The DNA profile is a mixture and is not suitable for comparison due to the quality of the profile.
And what does it mean when something's not suitable due to the quality of the profile?
This was a low-level profile with not enough information to be interpreted.
Do you have to have a certain level of information in the data to make findings based on your protocols and procedures at the lab?
Yes, there are protocols and procedures that determine how we can determine our number of contributors, and therefore, if there's not enough information, a profile is not suitable for interpretation or comparisons.
And then item 14-3, the swab from stain D on the back of the home, 47 Summer Street. What were your findings for that swab?
The female DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. The DNA profile from this item is at least 96 trillion times more likely if it originated from Lindsay Clancy than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support that Lindsay Clancy is included as a contributor to this DNA profile. Dawson Clancy, Cora Clancy, Callan Clancy, and Patrick Clancy are excluded from this DNA profile.
And again, this is a single contributor, so the DNA profile of one person was found on the swab, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Reddington? All right, thank you, Ms. Step down, thank you.
Thank you.
No rebuttal whatsoever to that. So it gives you the Mr. Reddington he calling DNA gobbledygook. Doesn't seem like he wants to question
Commonwealth would call Elaine Rossi as its next witness.
the forensic technologist, Katerina Stashin. Waiting for the next witness. Next witness has entered the courtroom.
Come on in. Please stop right there, raise your right hand for the clerk, please.
Witness being sworn in. Witness entering the witness box.
Good
She'll
morning.
state her name.
All right, counsel.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell the jurors your first and last name?
My first name is Elaine Rossi,
Can you spell your last name for the record?
Rossi.
And what city or town do you live in?
I live in Kingston.
What do you do for work?
I'm a nanny
How long have you been a nanny?
for about 15 years now.
In July of 2022, did you become familiar with the Clancy family?
I did.
And how did you become involved with their family?
I answered a Facebook advertisement seeking a part-time nanny position.
And who posted that advertisement?
Lindsay did.
And did she respond to your message?
I responded to her message.
Right, and so you said you were interested, right?
I did.
And then did she respond to you?
She did.
So did you have then communication back and forth with her about possibly taking on a nannying position for their family?
Yes, we did.
That was on July 22nd of 2022 that that initial back and forth occurred, correct?
Correct.
And as a result of your initial communication with her, did you end up setting up a time to come meet their family?
We did.
And how did that happen? Where did you meet them?
I met at their residence in the backyard of their home.
And that would be 47 Summer Street in Duxbury?
Correct.
And when you went to their home, were you able to meet the children?
Yes.
And how many children were there?
3.
And who were they?
Cora, Dawson, and Callan.
And present at that meeting that you had in their backyard were also Patrick and Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of kind of meeting at their home in the backyard?
It was to get familiar with the kids, just for an introductory meeting. I got to hold Callan and play with Cora and Dawson a little bit and talk to Lindsay and Patrick.
And so at that time, Cora was 4, right?
Yes.
And Dawson was 3.
Yes.
And Callan was an infant.
Yes.
Now, as a result of your kind of interview or interaction with them, what eventually happened with your relationship with the Clancys? Did you become their nanny?
I did.
And did you communicate with Lindsay about what the expectations of the job were going to be?
I did.
So what was your role or your expectations of the role?
My role was to take care of Callan when she went back to work.
Okay, and did you know when that was expected to happen?
I believe right around Thanksgiving.
And did you start working for them prior to that? Prior to November?
Yes, I did. I started first week in September of 2022.
And so while the original terms were for you to primarily watch Callan, did you take on a slightly different role in between September and November?
I did.
And so what were the responsibilities, or what did the Clancys ask you to do for the family during the time of September through essentially when you stopped working for them?
It was to get to know the family, to get to know how they worked as a family, to get to know their schedule, and essentially mostly to take care of Callan. Occasionally, Cora and Dawson would be home and I would interact with them as well.
So going into it, you knew that you would sometimes be spending time with Cora and Dawson.
Yes.
But to your understanding, were they at the home all the time?
No, they were at school.
And other than caring for Callan, did you agree to take on some other responsibilities in the household?
I did.
And what were those responsibilities?
It was food prep, light housekeeping, laundry, things like that.
Was that something that you offered to do as part of your services, or were you asked to do it?
I offered initially. I said that those were things I did as a nanny for previous families.
And what was your expected schedule going to be for the Clancys?
It was 3 days a week. I believe it was 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
And was the 3 days a set schedule, or was the expectation that it might change?
Initially, it was set and then it changed.
As far as your original expectation, fair to say, you were originally asked to do Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays?
Correct.
And then as you started working for them, you were asked to kind of adjust some of the days?
Yes.
And was that something that you could do?
If I could, I would.
And how about the time? You said from 8:30 to 1:30. Were the times flexible too?
Yeah, sometimes it was 9 to 1:30. That was about the only difference.
Okay.
It was about a half hour.
And how would you communicate with Lindsay?
So we communicated via text a lot. Lindsay also had a notebook in her kitchen that we communicate. Oh, she would leave notes for me for the activities or the instructions for me for the day.
Okay. And you said the week of Labor Day, that was your first week with the Clancy family, right? And primarily during that week, did you care for Callan?
Yes, I did.
Did they come to call you something particular as far as like a nickname?
They called me Lainey.
And that was something the kids called you as well as Patrick and Lizzie?
Yes.
So So I'm going to just show you what's been marked as Exhibit 150.
Okay. Mhm.
If you want to just take a quick look inside of it. You can flip through the pages if
Okay.
that's helpful.
Okay.
Does the handwriting in that notebook look familiar to you?
It does.
And fair to say there's two different handwritings, right?
Right.
Did you come to know one of the handwritings as Lindsay's handwriting?
I thought all of it was Lindsay's.
Okay, but as far as the second set of handwriting, do you recognize?
Oh, it's mine.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And so is this the notebook that you would kind of communicate with her back and forth about Callan and his schedule?
It is.
And fair to say she left you pretty detailed instructions
She did.
on his care.
Yes, she did.
And you were aware that she was very particular about sleep and food and keeping on a schedule, right?
Yes.
And so that's the purpose of this notebook.
Yes.
When you would come to the household in the morning, would you often interact with Lindsay prior to taking care of taking the baby?
Sometimes if she was there, I would interact with her. Some mornings she wasn't there.
If she wasn't there, was Patrick home?
Yes.
And did you know where she was when she wasn't there?
Sometimes she'd leave in the notebook that she was in the basement working out. Sometimes she'd drop the kids off to school.
And would you often see her throughout the day when you were there from your 9 to 1 shift?
Yes.
But there would be times when you would see her come back to the home?
Yes.
And in those times when she left, sometimes she had the other 2 children with her, correct?
Correct.
And sometimes she did not.
No.
At times, were you left with all 3 children?
I think on one occasion I was.
And would you get there before or after Cora and Dawson would be off to school usually?
Most times I would be pulling in the driveway and they would be waiting to say goodbye to me or hello to me.
And you're aware that they did not have school on Tuesdays, right? Were you aware?
I don't remember, sorry.
Okay. When you started working for the Clancy family, was there conversation with Lindsay about Callan not taking a bottle?
I don't remember that.
Did you often feed him a bottle when you were caring for him?
I did.
And do you recall at one point that you actually videoed Callan taking a bottle and sent it to Lindsay?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes.
And that would have been on September 9th, correct?
Yes.
At this point, Your Honor, I'd like to just play a short video.
Really, I object. I don't have, let the jury see the video. Can I see?
The prosecutor requesting to play a video in the courtroom. That's what we're waiting for at this minute. I believe it has something to do with the children and the interaction between the nanny, Elaine Rossi, and Lindsay. So we're waiting for that video. Potentially they just may be showing the jury and not showing it to the entire courtroom, this short video. Again, interaction between the nanny, Elaine Rossi, and Lindsay Clancy in regards to her taking care of the children, her verifying some of the things that she was doing with the children, and the prosecutor requested to be able to show a short video to the courtroom. You know, the jurors have heard all kinds of testimony regarding bloodstains, DNA, toxicology, prescription bottles, the exercise bans, and injuries that Lindsay sustained. So this is an interaction between the nanny, Elaine Rossi, and Lindsay Clancy. So again, there's a little short break. I believe that they're showing the video just to the jury because we're not seeing it up on the live for the courtroom. So that this should come back very, very shortly in regards to how they interpreted this video, what the jury saw, and again, not showing it to the entire world here. And in this case, the absence of fingerprints does not necessarily help either side because Lindsay's identity as the person who committed the acts is not necessarily or not seriously disputed. Lindsay has now agreed to stipulations covering portions of the physical and forensic evidence, including chain of custody matters. She briefly addressed the judge in court to confirm that decision. The stipulations mean prosecutors will not have to call every witness who handled particular evidence. That could shorten the trial and allow both sides to move more quickly toward the psychiatric testimony that will decide the case. This tells us something important. The defense does not appear interested in fighting peripheral forensic issues. Thus, when Mr. Reddington said DNA gobbledygook, it showed his opinion. It looks like we're going back into the courtroom right now to a live view of the nanny, Elaine Rossi. Oh, here we go with the video. It probably took this long to get it up on the screen.
Is that the video that you took of Callan taking the bottle?
Yes, it was.
And fair to say you sent that video to Lindsay Clancy on September 9th of 2022?
Yes, I did.
At this point, I'd move to admit a copy of that clip as the next.
With no objection, that may be admitted.
So it's just the video of
In
the
your
baby
care of
taking
the
a bottle.
children, were you ever permitted to take them outside of the household, like to the park or the library or anything?
I took Callan for a walk on one occasion, and I took Cora and Dawson to a tumble fun gymnastics class.
Okay, and that would have been in October of 2022 that you took Cora and Dawson, correct? When you went to Tumble Fun, what is that?
It's a toddler, like, gymnastics place, indoor gymnastics place.
Did you only take Cora and Dawson, or did you also take Callan?
Just Cora and Dawson.
And why was it that you took them on this particular day?
Lindsay had mentioned to me that they had tumble fun, but they wouldn't be going because she couldn't drive. So I offered to take them.
Did she tell you why she couldn't drive at that time?
She didn't.
So you took them, did you drive her car or your own car?
I drove her car.
And you were able to bring them home, correct?
Correct.
Did you notice anything different when you came back to the home on that day?
I didn't.
During the course of the time in which you were at the Clancy's house, fair to say from September to early December is the time that you were there, 3 days a week?
Yes.
Did you come to find out that Lindsay was having some issues?
I did.
Did she talk to you about that?
She did.
And what did she tell you about her issues?
She shared with me that she was suffering from postpartum.
Now, when she shared this information with you, had you noticed anything different about her demeanor or her presentation around the house?
I didn't at all.
Had her trips out of the house when you were there stopped or decreased during that time period?
No.
And did she tell you that at that time that she was seeing some doctors?
She did.
What about medication? Did you have any conversations with her about her taking medication during that time period?
I think we talked about she was going to stop the medication because she was trying to stop nursing.
That she was going to stop medication or she was going to start medication?
I think she was trying to stop something because she was going to, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
She was not going to nurse Callan anymore because she was going to be starting a new medication.
Did she ever give you any details about the medication?
She didn't.
Do you recall seeing prescription bottles around the house?
I did.
Did you ever learn from Lindsay that she had gone to the emergency room in November of 2022?
No.
How about going to the emergency room in December of 2022?
No.
Did anything about your arrangements with coming on the 3 days, caring for Callan and sometimes Cora, did any of that ever change because of what she reported to you about having postpartum?
Only at the end of my time with them.
Okay, we'll get there in a second, but did you have the occasion to observe her interacting with the children?
I did.
And did you have any concerns about her interacting with the children?
None at all. She was a wonderful mom.
Did she have any further conversation with you about maybe more specific sleep or sleep issues that she had been having during the time period you were nannying for them?
Did.
And what did she tell you about that?
She told me she was having difficulty sleeping and that she was sleeping in the basement.
Now, when you would watch Callan and she would be in the basement, would you often see her in the basement?
No.
And one of the things you said that you sometimes did was do some laundry, right? And where was the laundry in the Clancy house?
It was in the basement.
And so you'd have to go through that living room area down there where the couch was to get back to the laundry room?
Yes, it was in the back.
How about working out in the basement? Do you recall if you went down the basement stairs to the right that there'd be like a little area where there'd be weights and that kind of thing? Did you ever see her working out there?
I don't recall if I did.
Okay. As far as the medications, do you recall where you observed the medications in the house?
Yes, they were in to the right of the refrigerator, I believe in a cabinet.
And you had to go into the Clancy, Patrick and Lindsay's bedroom, right?
I did.
Fair to say Callan's crib was in there.
It was.
So do you recall ever seeing medications in the bedroom?
I didn't.
Now, you had mentioned that you knew Lindsay to be going back to work in November, correct? Were you advised, or did you know that she was originally scheduled to go back in October, but then bumped it back to November?
I didn't know that.
But as you began working for them, that November date was in mind, right? Moving to Thanksgiving of 2022, did something change about the plan for her to go back to work?
Yes, I came in, I think it was a few days after Thanksgiving, maybe the day after Thanksgiving, and Lindsay was in the kitchen, and I had expected her to be asleep.
Why was that?
Because I thought she was working that shift, that Thanksgiving shift. And she told me that she wouldn't be going back to work.
And was there any further conversation of what the plan was for you and the family during that time period?
No, I think I mentioned if she wasn't going back to work and that if they didn't need me, if they could let me know.
Okay. And so do you recall being at the home at one point where Patrick and Lindsay left the house and came back?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that interaction?
Of course. Patrick and Lindsay went for a walk, and when they returned, I was in the living room on the floor with Callan, and they came in and told me that they would have to let me go because Lindsay would not be going back to work and the two of them would be home to care for the children.
Okay. And so did they give you anything else, any other information about why Lindsay wasn't going back to work during that meeting?
No.
Okay. And did they give you some time to kind of make other arrangements after that?
They did. I believe they gave me 2 weeks.
And during that time after Thanksgiving, did you have the occasion to see Lindsay interacting with the kids in the home?
I did.
And was anything about your observations of her different?
Nothing.
Now, the kids themselves, you had the occasion to spend some time with Cora. And how would you describe Cora?
Oh, Cora was a girly girl who loved her babies very much. She was very sweet, and she loved arts and crafts and loved playing with her Fresh Mart, which was a little children's supermarket. She was lovely.
And Dawson, how about him? How would you describe him?
Dawson was full of energy, rambunctious, funny, silly.
Did you ever have any problem watching Dawson or keeping him under control or?
Not at all. I was only with him on a handful of occasions.
Did you ever see Dawson kind of interacting with his siblings, with Cora or with Callan?
I did.
And did you see anything, or could you tell us a little bit about Dawson's interactions with them?
Cora and Dawson played well. There was one occasion in the kitchen where they were playing, and I think Cora took one of his Play-Doh, something, he was playing with Play-Doh, and his reaction, he was frustrated, and he's reached out and slapped Callan.
Now, were you alone with the kids during this interaction, or was Lindsay present too?
Lindsay was, I think, in the kitchen at the same time.
Did you see her react to that when she saw that behavior?
She did.
And what was the reaction? What did she
She
do?
went over and removed Callan, she removed Dawson from the room and came back and consoled Callan.
And eventually, did you see her go back and kind of talk to Dawson about his behavior and address it? Okay. And was that appropriate in your opinion?
Of course, yes.
How about how you would describe Callan? How would you describe him? You spent the most time with him, correct?
I did. He was the happiest, sweetest, easiest baby. He was just a love.
Thank you. If Lindsay had told you in one of these exchanges, and again, you exchanged mostly either in this notebook or via text, right?
Correct.
If she told you about working out, do you know if she wasn't in the basement where she would go to work out?
I think it was the Kingsbury Club.
And as far as when you stopped working for them, do you remember exactly when it was? You said maybe 2 weeks after
I think
Thanksgiving.
it was December 8th or December 10th.
And in the time that you were with the Clancys in their households, caring for their kids, interacting with Patrick and Lindsay, did you ever have any concerns that the children were not safe?
No.
Thank you.
All right, Cross. Morning.
Good morning.
So you first met Lindsay and Patrick and the kids in, was it July of 22?
Yes.
And then you were hired, obviously, and you then took over as a nanny.
Yes,
You got a lot of years of experience as a nanny, don't you?
I do.
And this was that you wanted to kind of pick up some more hours, and that's why you fortunately reached out to the two of them and ended up taking care of those
Yes.
kids. So from July until, what was it, November after Thanksgiving, or was it early December that they had the walk, and then they came in and told you that she was gonna?
Early
be home?
December.
Early December. And you all left on good terms, right?
Oh, wonderful terms.
Yeah, I mean, you guys stayed in touch with each other, you texted them Christmas, things of that nature, right?
I did reach out to Lindsay to wish her a Merry Christmas.
Did she respond?
She did.
Would you agree that on March 1st of 2023, the state police interviewed you for about a half hour or longer about your observations of the Clancy family?
Yes.
Do you recall that the trooper, were there one or two of them, if you remember?
I believe there were two.
Yeah. Do you recall the trooper asking you questions about your observations of the Clancy family with particular focus on Lindsay? They were asking you about how well you knew her, what you thought of her, what she did as far as a mother in your presence.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
I apologize. They wanted to know what kind of a mother she was, right?
Yes,
And you were able to respond to that, right?
I did.
They also wanted to know any observations that you had about her use of prescription drugs, right?
Yes.
And you were forthcoming on that as well, right? They also wanted to know whether or not you observed or if she made any statements about any symptomology or symptoms that she might have been having that were causing her difficulty, right?
Yes.
Do you recall indicating to the troopers that, in your opinion, that she was a loving and a doting mother?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what that means? I mean, what did you observe about what did you observe about her as a mother interacting with her kids?
I observed a wonderful mom who loved her kids, she was very concerned with their safety. She was very concerned with Callan's eating and sleeping. She was a wonderful mother.
And the district attorney asked you questions about what apparently is Exhibit 150 in this case. And that's the book that she would write notes to you on, and then you would on occasion write notes back to her. Is that right?
Yes.
So when the district attorney asked you to identify her writing, so like also there were like photographs like that in the book as well, right?
Mhm.
Know who would draw that? Would she draw that, or would you draw that?
I think I drew that.
You do that one?
Yeah, I think so.
And for example, Thursday, September 29th, it says Callan last fed time, put him down for a nap at 9:35 with a smiley face. We will be home, clean the clothes in the dryer if you get to it. And then up Callan up at 10:45. And then some scribbling mark in the bottom. That's an indication of the type of notes that she would leave for you.
Correct.
Would she also leave notes for you to the effect of cutting up sweet potatoes and cutting up celery and things in 1-inch squares so that the kids could eat?
Yes, food prep, yes.
Did you find that to be overbearing or?
Well, not at all.
You didn't find that to be controlling, that she was trying to exert a control over you? Did you?
Not at all.
Felt that was appropriate for her to tell you about cutting up the vegetables and squares and things?
Yes.
She also told you during that period of time that she was unable to sleep. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Told you that lack of sleep was becoming a significant impact on her life, and that she had to see doctors and was on medication for that, right?
Correct.
Again, the troopers were questioning you and directing you on your questions or your answers. And at one point, do you recall saying to the trooper, I loved my Lindsay?
I loved my Lindsay.
Yeah.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay, did you?
Do I love Lindsay?
Yeah.
I did love Lindsay, yes.
Now, when was she sleeping in the basement? Do you remember that?
Do I know when or why?
When was she sleeping in the basement?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember, if I suggest to you that it was around the end of November, mid-December, that she was sleeping in the basement for a period of time? If you remember.
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
Did she indicate to you why she was sleeping in the basement?
I don't think she did.
Would you agree that she was forthright with you as far as telling you what was going on in her life, as far as her concentration and her inability to sleep and things of that nature?
Yes.
Sustained. Would she tell you about those problems that she was suffering?
She shared with me that she had postpartum and that she couldn't sleep.
And as a result of that, you were pretty concerned for her, weren't you?
I really don't know much about postpartum, but I would always ask her how she was feeling
Right.
or how she was doing.
And in fact, you noted that in addition to the inability to sleep, that she would speak about that she was unable to focus. Do you recall her ever saying she had difficulty focusing on things?
I don't recall her saying that to me.
How about thin? Did you notice that she appeared to be losing significant weight?
I did, and I commented to her about that.
Okay. And you had occasion to see her as a mother playing with the children, obviously, right?
Yes.
Would the two of you stay in touch with each other by text even when she was out and you were home and in their home with the kids?
Yes.
Fair to say that you would take many, many videos of the kids and send them to Lindsay on her phone, right?
I did.
And fair to say that during that period of time from your involvement, Ms. Rossi, as a nanny, that you sent her videos of the children playing, and as we saw the baby taking the bottle and the baby eating and things of that nature, right?
I did.
Did she ever send you any videos, or did she ever respond to your emails or videos?
Yes, she responded to most of my texts she responded to.
Did she seem to be appreciative of your work?
Yes, very much so.
And in fact, she was pretty vocal about that. She thought the world of you, right?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Redirect?
Just one question. In all that she told you about postpartum sleep and all that you observed in the house, did you ever have any conversations with her about intrusive thoughts or thoughts of harming yourself?
No.
Anything on that? No. All right, you may step down. Thank you. Thank you. Counsel, can I see you?
So, little break now. The judge is asked to speak to prosecution and defense counsel, what they call a sidebar. We heard that ad nauseum in years ago, if you would have been around, in the O.J. Simpson case, that they kept referring to when they would want to speak to the defense and the prosecution to have a little bit of a sidebar. Again, in this case, they're not trying to create reasonable doubt about whether Lindsay killed her children. They're concentrating their resources on criminal responsibility. And did a mental disease or defect absolve her of responsibility in this case because of the prescription drugs she was prescribed, postpartum depression? Can that or will that absolve her of criminal responsibility? And just the fact that planning doesn't automatically disprove psychosis. One of the prosecution's strongest arguments may be that Lindsay's behavior demonstrated planning. So if you can plan and you can think and you can premeditated, we hear that term all the time, premeditatively plan something this horrific, that then how could you be suffering from a mental disease or defect? And that would be what they're trying to disprove, right? Also in this case, again, the prosecution trying to prove the strongest argument is that Lindsay's behavior demonstrated planning. She allegedly asked her ex-husband, Patrick, to leave the house. She identified items for him to pick up. She waited until she was alone with the children. She then carried out 3 separate acts. To an investigator, that sequence can look organized and intentional. Intent, we always talk about the crime of murder with the need to have intent, right? The 4 culpable mental states: recklessly, intentionally, criminally negligent, and knowingly. Intentionally is, you intend a certain outcome to your actions. They're going back to a live view in the courtroom right now. So we'll get back to the courtroom. Now it looks like the defense attorney, Mr. Reddington, and the prosecutor are approaching the judge for another sidebar yet. Very, very complicated case, right? Jurors will receive an important warning from the defense. A person experiencing psychosis can still perform organized actions. Psychosis does not always look like confusion, screaming, or complete physical disorganization. Someone may drive a car, use a telephone, follow a routine, or carry out a plan while operating under a delusional belief. Therefore, the existence of planning does not automatically resolve the question. The issue is what Lindsay believed she was accomplishing. Was she eliminating children she no longer wanted? Was she angry and acting out of resentment? Was she planning a murder-suicide while understanding that it was morally and legally wrong? Or did she believe, because of psychotic delusion, that killing the children was somehow necessary to save them or allow her to die? Those distinctions are painful, but they are legally critical. And the significance, again, okay, they're going back to a live view of the courtroom. We'll get the prosecutor and the defense are going back to their tables.
We're going to break at this point, all right? And so I'm going to ask you to come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Remember those instructions. Don't talk about this. Don't do any research about this. Don't listen about anything. Don't talk about it with anyone. And I'm going to ask you to come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we'll start with the testimony tomorrow. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
So the judge is allowing the jury to leave and to resume tomorrow at 0900 hours, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, counsel, anything else we need to talk about before tomorrow morning? All right, so this case will be in recess till tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you. With no we're not coming, there's nothing scheduled at 2 o'clock in this matter any further, okay? So this court on this case will be in recess till tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
So there you have the judge dismissing the jury and declaring a recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Just the significance of three separate victims in this case. There are many. From a homicide investigative perspective, the number of victims matters. This was not a single sudden act completed in seconds. Again, that goes to the planning. There were three children of different ages. Each child had to be physically controlled. Each strangulation required time and sustained force. After the first child was attacked, there were still opportunities to stop. After the second child, there was another opportunity to stop. The prosecution may argue that these separate decisions demonstrate deliberation and intent. The defense may counter that if Lindsay was acting under a single overpowering psychotic delusion, each act was part of the same catastrophic psychiatric episode. The jury will have to determine whether repetition proves rational decision-making or merely reflects the persistence of the alleged delusion. So a very, very complicated case here, you know, and nothing easy about it. A lot of scientific testimony. That's part of this case. And again, it's not going to be an easy thing to decide. So folks, I just want to remind everyone that the police off the cuff podcast is sponsored by FanDuel on the Believe Network. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I didn't plan on covering this case, and we jumped right in. And I see a lot of you folks already very much invested in this case, and I appreciate that. So, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. God bless, and see you next time.
One episode just ain't enough.